Yeah. So there's a couple different things coming up for me. The first one, and maybe tag this for just a moment, but the first one is I'd like to talk about how their archetypal energy as a hero generation fits into all of this.
Yeah.
But before that, the thing that's coming up for me, and this is why I like generational theory, even though I mean, I'm always surprised by how much pushback it gets, because it's like, it's just a model. It's okay. Nobody's telling you you're anything. All right.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
But it's in some ways a real opportunity for healing, because like I mentioned, I get disturbed at how much pushback there is against the baby boom generation, in part because I was taught when I was young to respect my elders, and so that's like probably more of like an artist or a silent generation Gen X relationship, I suspect.
Yeah.
But part of this is that baby boomers like spoke things out, believing that the world would always be the way that it was in their coming of age and in their young adulthood. And that's just called humaning. Like we always assume that our experience is going to continue. We don't know that we're necessarily part of some larger cycle that is unpredictable or is predictable, but you have to be able to see the pattern first. And so the quote unquote promises that were made, like you mentioned, were made at a different time period.
Right.
And so they didn't work out for a generation that was born in a completely different context, because now the system had changed. The initial conditions were different. And so the emergent of the system is going to be very different. So I think boomers set up their children with really good intention. Like they wanted good things for their children, and they assumed good things would continue on. And so the betrayal, the feeling of deception, is certainly not intentional, but it wasn't even done in ignorance and like ignoring information and doing it anyway. It was more made in like complete naivety, right? It was just, that was their experience. So why would they think life would be any different than what they had personally experienced?
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, I noticed in the 90s in particular, as my generation was starting to go through elementary school and middle school, there was a doubling down as the system itself was starting to be less vital. Unraveling. It was starting to, they were like pushing kids through. It was like no child left behind, right?
Yeah.
That idea of go faster, faster, faster. Now, a lot of millennials are reporting a lot of relationship to ADHD and a lot of attention deficit and learning challenges, because there's a lot of relationship to academia within our generation as well. And strictly trying to listen for orders. We're so used to, again, listening for direction from our parents. And then that transferred to academia, and it's trying to transfer to the workplace. But as Gen X is starting to get older and they're taking over in the workplace, they're not giving specific orders like we talked about. They're saying, we want this done, and basically assuming go figure it out. But millennials are like, what do you mean? What do I have to do? Tell me what to do.
Right.
Yeah. It feels like millennials, again, from my perspective, how I'm looking at it, are a very performative generation. It's almost like I don't really want to. I mean, this is how I perceive it. I'm sure that there's more nuance here, and I may not have it all right. But how I perceive millennials is that tell me what the answers are, because we already know what all the answers are. Prophet generation, parent archetype generation. You know the answers. You told me you know them all. So give me the answers and let me go perform them out in public or in society or in the culture or in the system. I'll go perform it out. I'll be your mouthpiece. I'll be your child that gets on the stage for the recital and performs this out in a way. I mean, there's a broad brush archetypical energy that I see.
In this, I remember working in the school system in like 2002, 2003. I was quite young, but I remember working with kids between 2nd and 5th grade and asking another person, what do you think what do you think this generation of kids is going to be like after the concept of teach to the test? What's that going to look like? If we're just teaching them the answers already, right? How's that going to manifest? And I think some of what you're talking about, the performance, when you teach to the test, at that point, it's all theater, right? You gave them the answers. They went and did the test, which is a performance. They did that in order to get funding, right? It was all theater in order to make the system work the way that they need to make it work in order for them to continue to quote unquote learn, right? And so I think what you're talking about is from a very young age being imbued with this idea of theater, right? We perform out taking the test. We already know all the answers because we got taught to the test.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's is that kind of what you're talking about?
And the trope, I don't know if this is true. This is the trope. This is the funny thing that everybody says is everybody got a trophy for participating. The idea of that speaks to what I'm saying. Whether or not everybody on a sports team, no matter what they did, got a real trophy or not is beside the point. You're claiming you did. So
yeah, we did.
It's performative again. It's go out and perform the role, do the performance process. It doesn't matter the result, doesn't matter your competency. I mean, again, I'm overgeneralizing from my perspective.
Right.
It's okay because the whole point is just to go through the motions and perform it out collectively with your peers.
And it didn't, and it's like fulfilling or playing out an act that I didn't write. I didn't write this play. I didn't cast this vision for myself. I'm following it. And you would ask yourself, as you have, like, why would you do that? Well, it doesn't make sense to do that. Why would you just not have sovereignty? Why would you not just like be an individual and navigate life? But the reason we take on persona is because there is something deemed unsafe that we put into the shadow.
Yeah.
And there's something we bring forward in order, like when we're kids, we're the most vulnerable ever. Like we're totally hyper dependent on whoever's around us. And so we have to perform the way that we're expected to perform.
Yeah.
And in the millennial sense, it was fitting into the group. Everyone gets a trophy, get good grades. You're going to go to college, you're going to get a job, you're going to do this, and just keep on going down the line. And the modern version of it is some sort of social action or some sort of social involvement, whether that's, fighting for more of the left side feminine minorities or the right side masculine young men who are being underserved. It doesn't matter which political side. It's just more of like kind of a social focus.
Yeah.
And by consequence, a denial of inner authority.